Chapter 30. 1 year ago. The temperatures were dangerously low, even for Frankfurt Falls, but winter was and had always been Jude's favorite time to observe. There was still the boy in the man, and it wasn't uncomfortable to remain, locked in the observatory, overnights, snowed in by choice, by the convenience one's amenities provide. The plan would be enacted in the summer, under the summer sky they knew so well, and the egg, as it was named, was nearly complete in its construction. In his observatory, he maintained a full closet with snow pants and other items he'd need to observe, really observe, the nighttime sky, and he mirrored the arrangement he remembered from his childhood home, just on the other edge of town. Gloves in the bottom drawer, hats in the middle, scarves on top. On this day, he knew just where to find it all. He looked around the lab as he put his arms through the sleeves of his winter jacket and saw remnants of his lunch, a toothbrush by the sink through the open bathroom door, and now this, a fully stocked closet. When was the last time I went home? 3 days ago, he thought, and thought again. It had been 5 days, and he felt his error with a tinge of grief, as if something had been lost. Not time, necessarily, but confidence, if we can't know the little things. We are entangled in circumstances and routines, he thought as he grabbed what he needed and closed the closet. Tangible routines. We forget where we are. It's too easy to forget. It was winter, but that was a condition unique to the earth. Shadows, shadows, memories. Jude, part of Jude, had defiantly maintained an image of Vera. A version of himself remained, one who wanted more than science, more than understanding, one who wanted touch, the girl, a life outside the lab. A choice was made and a boundary was constructed between the man who is and the man who wants. Time had moved and the boundary had become burdensome in new ways. It was not the initial Monday, the pain of choosing. This was the pain of incongruence, regret, and it was a pain that could not be sustained, lest the path be undone. Anything new in the sky tonight? Yes, Dad, always. And on Earth? On Earth? Here, now. Jude zipped his gray coat and took the stairs to the roof. Parker had left, a few hours ago? 8 p.m.? It must have been 8 p.m. What time is it now? Parker, though himself spouseless, left to a life that existed beyond the lab. Something, at least. Jude's choices precluded these options, and he worked. He had been working steadily now for nearly 18 months, bringing into existence the plan from that Tuesday, a lifetime ago, when days of the week still had relevance. Tuesday, he thinks. It was Tuesday. It was the day after Monday. Monday, he echoed in his head, and opened the door. He put headphones over his ears, which doubled as earmuffs in the bite of the winter air. It hit his nose immediately, and his eyes squinted. On this night, it was the Beatles' Help album, and he heard the first words immediately. Help, I need somebody. Help, not just anybody. Help, I need someone. Help. The snow had been falling steadily for 3 days. Not all debilitating weather is dramatic. In northeastern winters, it can be slow and steady and relentless and consequential, deadly. Last winter, 4 people died in Frankfurt Falls, 1 from exposure and 3 from unmet medical needs. Or was it limited access to medications, something like that? Jude heard clips of news, headlines, and felt not informed but increasingly detached from the world. Now it was whispered headlines, or nothing at all, but people died. 4 people died. Consequences are real. On this day, the snow had accumulated to 26 inches. Jude forced the door open through the obstructionist snow in 3 heaves, just enough to exit his comfort, and entered the cold, and soon he was alone in the world he always knew, the darkness and the space between. We said our goodbyes, the night before. Love was in your eyes, the night before. But he hadn't said goodbye, had he? No, not this Jude. The man who was, the man he had the potential to be, said goodbye with hopeful, sparkling eyes. The man he became never said a word, and this had established residency in his mind in the time between. Yes, 18 months, he confirmed. It had affected his quietude, his peace, his ability to stare into the blackness, to wonder. He walked away only to secure that which became fragile by consequence, loss and loss. Part of his mind now sits idle, stubborn, with arms crossed, pouting, and pointing fingers. There is the boy in the man, and there is now the other man, the potential of the man who awoke on that beach with Vera. Vera. Her name was Vera. Of course it was. He yells at the corners of his mind. You don't have to tell me her name. So stupid. So stupid. I know. There's loss. There's potential and there's loss. Choices. And the man that was on this evening, attempted to manufacture lost serenity, there on that roof, in that cold, in the necessity one feels when faced with weather capable of murder, death, and he was betrayed by the quietude. Once Jude could shrink and take comfort in the relative meaninglessness. Now its value was diminished, and only the quality remained, its meaninglessness, the quality of nothing, and the space filled with the voice of the man who was denied. The cold was visible as swirls of snow danced above the covered roof, and the edges were erased. Snowdrifts extended just past the edge and blended themselves with the snow-covered ground 3 stories below. Yes, it could kill me, he thought. The cold could kill me. And he settled. He bent his elbows like he had as a child and leapt into the air. He bent his knees and landed on his ass, crunching a recliner into the rooftop drifts. This was familiar, and here he would sit and think. He would continue to think. Maybe he could stop thinking. But first, his mind would wonder about his lack of response in considering death. Freezing to the bone on this roof and being found the next day by Parker. The thought did not move him, he observed. The thought did not scare him. It's not real, he assured himself. That's why. He could simply go inside, after all. He was not freezing to death. But what if I locked the door? Created my own trap. But he wouldn't. It wasn't real. Though he fed the compulsion to look back and see the door ajar to his right, a thin line of light reminding him of his safety. The snow continued to fall, light flakes, one by the millions. And if I go back inside, what would it be for? He was close, he reminded himself. He and Parker would be initiating their plans within this calendar year. He was so close. And when we do, what will that be for? Answers, he knew. Truth, understanding. Answers to the questions he's entertained since thoughts had words. Answers, he said out loud, quietly to the wind, and it dissipated. He heard this word, and his thoughts became real. He looked back to the door one more time. Hey, you've got to hide your love away. My work will not be for nothing, he assured himself as his eyes adjusted again to the darkness. If this works, and the findings can be communicated in any way, it will call into question every understanding we feel we have about the conceivable universe, progress. And it would, if. It would dismiss entire subsets and domains, if. Science and unlock doors to a new world, if. A new truth or something close to it. That's not nothing. He wiped snot from his nose and watched it freeze on his glove before looking back to the sky. It might be everything. You don't realize how much I need you. If I return, if the work concludes, if paradoxes can create measurable results, if the power of observation itself can be measurable, if creation can be tangibly extracted, fabrics unravel, metrics, measurements, science. God, the ifs, he shook his head. the ifs and maybes and maybe nots, but he and Parker are only months away from knowing. They will set sail on July 1st. It's happening. Unless I just freeze to death on this roof. Maybe he'll somehow slide to his death. Even flat roofs have edges, he thinks, and these are covered, hidden. One bad gust, one wrong step. It wouldn't be intentional. No, never. Some steps are just the wrong steps, and there are consequences. It's happening, unless it isn't. Jude closed his eyes. The space that solitude and the night sky allowed him through all of his years betrayed him now, and his mind opened and welcomed the stubborn man who was denied on a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday. It was one day. How silly. War. Betrayal. Observation. Real observation with the naked eye required quietude. He could no longer disappear into the darkness, and it pained him. He felt compounded loss in his intestines and in his fading muscles, in his meals and in his appetites, choices. He, Jude, lost something, and that loss fed itself and continued to feed. It consumed and grew and became a black hole somewhere just south of his heart. Now he has the work and nothing more. And for what? Not nothing. Not nothing. July 1st. You're going to lose that girl. You're going to lose that girl. With his eyes closed and his mind refusing to cease, he allowed sleep to come. Jude rested deeply in winter, and this evening was no different. The cold burnt his cheeks and nose, and he allowed himself to fade. He listened to the wind, carrying that which fell and placing it where it belongs, where it would become something else, one of many, a collective. It was the wind that hypnotized him to a state of rest and quieted his mind enough for sleep. He had been dreaming before he woke to the Beatles yesterday. In his dream, he had returned to space, back in a place he had never been to but in dreams. The darkness was familiar. In his right hand, he held a journal, sprawled with pages and markings and expressions of his travels. His left hand, possessed and clenched white, was on his throat, trying to disallow air. What air? Life from entering his body, and he would fade, and his arm would drop, and he would revive, and his arm would rise to strike again, fade, drop, revive, rise again. In his dream, he died 1,000 times. He hadn't counted them all, but recalled thinking 999 in fated desperation before dying once more, and upon his 1,000th death, his journal left his hands and ripped itself to pieces. Individual pages were first removed, torn from his journal one by one, and then torn again, shredded before his eyes as if some invisible villain had a hand on each corner. Pinch, pinch, rip. Smaller and smaller still. In time, upon his last death, his journal had become nothing more than space confetti, to be blasted to all corners of what? The observable universe? No, he was beyond that now. Answers. They would be pushed to no corners, every corner. There were no corners. And with his now freed right hand, he locked his left hand in place, covering it slowly and firmly with frozen knuckles. Let the cold lock my hands in place. Give me no choice. Choice. Give me no choice. He watched confetti float, not to anywhere, but away. It would go away from him, that is all, to and from nowhere. There is here, and there is not here, that is all. And he was alone. He felt his frozen hands on his frozen neck and felt the loss of life down to his frozen toes. He would not fade again. He would exist in frozen death, alone forever in the blackness. He woke. It was the cold that woke him. Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Awake now, in the open air, he stared at Orion, the sword, and in every combination of the night lights, he saw Vera. He had been looking at the stars. What truth could offer more certainty than that? He had been looking at the stars, not the space between. Tonight, for Jude, there would be no observation. Upon returning to his lab and disrobing his winter armor, Jude poured his first Manhattan. He stared and followed his mind into corners he preferred to ignore, paths he had attempted to block, realities that were not. Then they are not realities at all. No, they aren't. He poured his second Manhattan. His work was scattered about the room by design. Jude worked in controlled chaos with varied forms. Order does not produce results. Order, he always thought, produced more of the same. He would often find things in the chaos, combinations of variables, a paperweight on a whiteboard creating angles, paper stacked and taped and cut and ripped and crumpled in overflowing garbage cans. He stared at the solution. Parker was right. It wasn't science. It wasn't math. Not yet. He poured his third Manhattan and looked into a telescope. Stupid, he thought. Stupid. He named what he saw out loud and felt nothing. Like telling your girlfriend you love her, only to realize you don't. The nothingness infected him. The meaninglessness. The bottle beside him was half empty. Half full. It's half fucking empty. Jude woke the next morning with his head on his arm. His eyes opened laboriously to a bottle that was 99% empty. 1% full. It's fucking empty. He blinked and it remained. Again. Jude was no alcoholic. He was no mess. He was no phlegmatic. No wanderer in the open marsh, but he saw himself on this morning and recognized the dissonance and need. He woke to bourbon in his thick beard, drool on his bicep, and blank spaces. This will not do, he thought, though his head had not yet left his arm. This will not do. He pulled his phone to his face to check the time. 8:58 a.m. Okay, he thought, okay. And why had his phone been right there? He felt a sharp, thick, clenching stab of anxiety, and flashes of the night that was entered his mind. He shot up in his chair and opened his calls. There it was. Fuck. He remembered. The suicide hotline. Crisis hotline. Whatever. Suicide. No. My God. 988. He had called 988. His heart became audible and his stomach churned. The memory was acid, poured on his aching head, and it came in waves. It was an evening he would remember in his remaining 6 months. This was a dance he would do no longer. It came, burning and setting foot in his mind. There are some things we need no reminding of. Jude. It's all meaningless. He was shouting, he remembers now. Woman, I'm here to help. Jude, there's nothing to help, nothing more, nothing anymore. Woman, nothing more? Jude, I look and I look and I look and I don't see anything anymore. Woman, sir, where are you right now? Jude, nothing. Woman, sir, we can send help to you. Jude, I don't need help. He had emphasized his repeated lie as if she needed to especially hear that which he did not need. Woman, sir, I want to hear more about why you called. Are you having thoughts of hurting yourself? Are you having thoughts of killing yourself? Jude, no. Yes, no. Woman, sir, are you safe? Jude, yes, no. I don't know. I think I might freeze to death or die in space. Woman, are you inside right now? Jude, yes. Woman, you're inside and safe right now. Jude, yes. Woman, do you have a plan to hurt or kill yourself, sir? Jude, no, I just think I might freeze to death. I might freeze to death or die in space. The conversation continued and went nowhere. Woman, sir, you are inside. You are safe. You are warm. These thoughts of freezing to death can't hurt you if you choose to keep yourself safe. They're bats in the barn. Bats in the barn. Jude held his head in his hands until the sun shone in the window and communicated 10 a.m. by his measure. Time would move, and Parker would be in the lab by noon. Get up. The place did not become tidy by any measure, but it was cleansed of the previous night. Jude discarded the bottle and took out the garbage. He had nothing to hide, but knew very simply that this morning marked a new beginning, and yesterday's ends would not do. Before leaving, he shoveled a path on which Parker could enter, signs of a healthy man, that would help him exit just as well. Jude got into his car to head home for the first time in 6 days. He put on A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead, something to purge Help, which he thought convincingly he would never listen to again. And as he considered this, he committed to it. He never will. He decided also to take action in ending this 18-month chapter. He would drive, yes, in winter, to East Norwalk. He would drive by Vera's house for the first time since the Tuesday that was, when the decision was made. He would see in physical form the place, maybe the woman, of which he had only dreamt in recent months. He would see it, and he would say goodbye again. Fear, loss, the romance of wanting and avoiding, or whatever you'd call those games, these were luxuries he could no longer entertain. He needed silence. In 6 short months, July, he would need absolute silence. It was 3 p.m. He found that her house looked the same as he remembered, though covered in snow. A deep gray, almost black, with white trim and clean 90-degree angles. A modern cube with accents of cedar shingle to remind them of where they were. He thought he saw a silhouette of Vera through the mudroom window, but couldn't be sure. A chill twisted in his stomach. The western-facing front was still in shadow from the afternoon sun, but it was enough. It was enough for him to picture her answering the door in red heels and that skirt, her shirt unbuttoned, and beads of sweat dripping down her chest from whatever chores he interrupted. She would pull him inside. I waited for you. I know. You didn't come. I know. But you're here now. I am. Well, come inside. He does. She would slip off her heels and drop them as she walks to her room. He would pick them up one by one, and her shirt, her skirt, her panties. His mind flashed to her, naked, running on the beach toward the water. And with arms full of clothes he had gathered, he would find her standing naked beside her bed. He imagined the sheets were silk, a deep blue like the ocean, and she would put one knee on the bed, extending her arms to flatten a wrinkle here and there, and he would see her from the doorway. You didn't come back for nothing. No, you came back for me. I did. It would be so simple, and it was right there, here, 58 Thurman Boulevard. So close, though he never stopped or even slowed. He would allow this, but with limits. The fantasy took him home, took him to nearly 6 p.m., and he allowed it. A silent film, fiction, the life that will not be, the path not chosen, a lifetime with Vera in fast forward. He would avoid it no longer. He let it dance and released it from the prison his choice created. Upon parking his car, he let it conclude, packaged the fantasy and framed it in a new understanding. I have never even set foot in that house, I imagine. She does not remember me. She does not know me. I am not that man. And this meant something. He was the man he chose, and he affirmed it before coming home. Before settling into his leather couch, he turned the heat to 72 degrees and pulled the vinyl from its sleeve. It played again. He will repeat new patterns until the old are extinguished. Stay in the shadows. Not more than 2 minutes passed. He stood. The couch was not sufficient. It lacked something. With a flick of his wrist, he turned the volume to the right and entered the bathroom. He stared into the mirror to process what needed processing, compartmentalize that which needed walls, and plan for the push, his final 6 months, and he had no doubt that it would be. Answers won't come without cost. He didn't tell Parker this, of course, but he knew. He pulled out scissors and began to cut his beard. A chapter had ended, and he would create signs, reminders. He had 6 short months and could afford no more blunders or distractions. He would be ready. Goodbye, Vera. Snip. Goodbye to the pouting man in the corner of his mind. Snip. Goodbye to the present that is not. Snip. To the future that will not be. Snip, snip, snip. He left his bathroom. He would leave many things. He rested his head on his pillow and felt it upon his smooth jaw, maybe for the first time. It stuck there and was silent. The next morning, Jude packed a suitcase and, upon exiting the house, stared at his front door. It was the red door his father had painted, the same gray shutters. It was upon this same porch that young Jude ran to and from his father's eyes. He stared and saw nothing of the door. His mind was elsewhere. Minutes passed and he stepped into his car. It was a nice home, a small ranch, and furnished with that which gave him comfort in his solitude, had once, deeper still, given him comfort as a boy. Nothing here would be forgotten easily, but all would be packed away, neatly for now, away. He sat in his driveway, his windshield defrosting, and called a local realtor to express his intentions. The house need not hear this. His father need not hear this. He would have the decency to call from his driveway. With what contingencies? None. Do you need this sale to fund a new purchase? No. How soon are you hoping to list this? Immediately. Please send the paperwork to my office. He offered the address of the observatory. With this, he called his lawyer as well. His affairs would be in order. He would leave nothing idle, nothing undone. No strings, no regrets. This is highly unusual. Do you remember helping us with the observatory? Yes, beautiful building. It is. And what does that have to do with this? Everything. He went on to explain his intentions, the sale of his house, where those funds should be allocated, to Parker and their observatory, the university, to advance and fund further investigations into whatever it is they uncover. If 6 months. The windshield had long since thawed, and Jude put the car into reverse, leaving his home for the last time. He pulled into the long driveway that, if followed, became a moderately sized building with a dome-shaped roof. It was 3 stories, but had the girth of a small family home. It was well groomed in summer, but was maintained only in its access points in today's winter. Jude saw sharp edges in the snow to either side. A plow had come through, and his path was clear. The front door was automatic, not unlike a hospital. He entered into a reception area. It was blue with gold trim and covered in black circles, indications of many things, objects, things shaped, rounded, and maintained by consequences of force, gravity, absence, loops, laws, and means of measurement, ends, inside and out. We can hold on to the edges of a circle, the event horizon, for eternity, or... He paused in his own thoughts, standing now with the suitcase in hand, staring at the walls. Or we can enter, be inside. Or we can pull away. Pull away. We mustn't look away, even if it ends, even if it's endless, even if neither can be true. I mustn't pull away. Eventually, with the weight of his belongings demanding his attention, Jude pulled himself away and entered the elevator to his lab on the 2nd floor. The door opened, and Parker, already working punctiliously, turned. "Whoa, looking good, my man. I haven't seen a fresh trim since college." I was due. I'll say, well, I dig the new look. His tone turned earnest. What's with the luggage? Parker didn't know. It's the final push. We're 6 months out. I need to be prepared to stay, should I need to. Parker's eyebrows raised, clearly not understanding. Also lacking any lead toward a clarifying question. He shifted. Check this out, Jude. He pulled the sheet off of the chamber he had been working on for over a year. He had installed the windows and casing just before Jude's arrival and was anxious for the great reveal. He beamed, and Jude warmed. It was a marvel. Parker was gifted, there was no doubt, and this device, this pod, once detailed in their publication, would be his ticket for any future endeavor, any grant, any position. And his work would be funded, Jude thought. Parker. Jude was in awe, his voice soft and reverent. It was here. They were nearly ready. It shone under artificial light and sat like an egg in a nest under the open dome. Yes, the egg. Jude, Parker retorted sardonically, and Jude saw his eyes shift, taking notice yet again of his exposed chin. You know you look exactly like your father now, old man. Julian. What? He always called me Julian. He was the only one who ever called me that, minus clerks at the DMV and the like. Well, Julian, Killian's son, firstborn, whatever. Let's get to work. And they would work. And Julian would purge and prepare for the end that Parker missed in his calculations, gifted as he was. And Julian would show fortitude and commit to a clean shave through spring. And Julian was emptier than he had ever been, consciously deluded in his commitment to that very emptiness. It became him and was, as he knew, the very thing he had married. It is okay because it is mine. Anything new in the sky tonight? We will see, Dad. And then ends. Some things are not forever. Some things, knowledge perhaps, in order to be sustained, require fuel. If I am to be nothing more, let me at the very least be that. Let me contribute. Let me, the finite scientist, be fuel. He looked at the egg, as it was named, glistening green and white by Parker's choice, sneaky Jets fan. Julian laughed and observed him, Parker, working so diligently to make real what once was a dream. 6 months. And in the egg, the semi-transparent reflection of its windows, he saw his death, the end, and also the potential for everything. It stared back. Things so profound always do. Chapter 31. 2 years ago. Selma slid her, and she moved to Brian wore. They went together to the twice they in. Fuck it. She closed her laptop. Winter to date had been her peak writing time. There was something romantic in the crisp air, blankets and fireplaces, the music, hoodies, socks and boots and shoveled paths. There was romance in what was required and what was impossible, and her stories would grow and grow. It had been her most inspired season. And then, abruptly, romance died. This, in any case, is how she explained it to Sally. Romance is dead, Vera lamented, chewing on a carrot in her kitchen and swirling a glass of wine. Dead? Damn, Stills, that's stark. Sally always appeared more engaged on the phone than she did in person. It was probably the absence of her stupid face. It's like every one of my characters got neutered overnight. She disappeared half of her glass in a gulp, and her eyes widened in surprise. Get some sexy bitch in there to liven it up. Vera heard clinking, or clicking, or something, but didn't mind the divided attention. Sally's full attention usually came with bad ideas, or worse. I've tried. Girls are throwing themselves at these guys. I've tried threesomes. I've tried it all. Sally, shit got lame. I've got a limp laptop over here. Maybe you should get out there instead, Sally whispered, and create some of that magic in real life. Yeah, maybe. Any word on the good doctor? Vera remembered the bar, remembered clicking her heels like a fool on the following Monday, remembered closing a tab for 2 drinks and the bartender looking over her shoulder at the weeping drinks behind her. untouched as she was. It didn't work out, was what she said. Nothing about seeing his face behind every beard. Nothing about imagining every clean-shaven man to maybe be him. Who knows? Without the beard? Maybe. Nothing about every sound of flip-flops conjuring up the sounds of water and the feel of his strong hands upon her back, upon her thighs, his thumbs pressing into her hips. Don't mention Tim Reynolds, her own red heels, any of that. No need. Enough is enough. Impressions were made, and fingerprints remain. Sometimes speaking words only hardens clay that might otherwise bend in our favor. This is especially true with Sally. I really thought that one sounded promising. No call, no nothing. We didn't exchange numbers. Vera, it's like 2025. Like, she started mockingly. I know, but I'm a fucking romance novelist, and we planned to meet there the following week. This was months ago. Why are you bringing it up now? And? What was the band that played that night? She couldn't remember a single word. And I changed my mind. Vera raised her hands in a silent challenge to nobody, and Sally barreled through. You changed your mind? It wasn't a question. When are you coming out here? Vera, it's been like only a couple months. Are you lonely already? I told you not to move. Vera placed her middle finger gently to the phone and grabbed another carrot. I just thought you might want a little ocean in your life. Can you hear that? She placed her phone to the closed window to hear frozen waves sloshing onto snow, slush, and the beginnings of ice formations. Sounds like vacation, Sally. I hear sadness stills. This was sung more than spoken. Sally was melodic in her poor attempts at humor. Fuck off. How's the food anyway? And all the Patriots fans? Food's great because I'm making it. Patriots fans are exactly what you'd expect. Okay, gotta run. Get some dick, Stills. Fuck yourself, Sally. Okay, bye. Vera hung up. Well, if she couldn't write, she could read. At least she could read. She stood to scan her catalog. The top shelf was reserved for her books, and she dreamt of one day completing the row, though that was now certainly in doubt. Below that, they were organized by genre. Romance? Fuck no, thank you. Thriller? Not the vibe. And there was nothing on the shelves she hadn't already been thrilled by. Repeat reads on thrillers didn't exactly hit on the second take, unless there was something sexy involved, and again, fuck no, thank you very much. Satire? Not in the mood. Fantasy? I don't need to dream, she thought, and instead sat to think. She remembered Jude's smile and thick beard, his white teeth, and the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. She remembered the way he looked into the night sky, as if there was something to see, really something beyond the stars. How his back felt on her fingertips. Dr. Julian Thomas. Dr. Julian Thomas. And just where did you get your doctorate, Dr. T? 20 minutes into her stalking, which was not aided all that well by her laptop, tried to dig on a specific astrophysicist. It's not riveting. She uncovered 2 published books. No shit. A theory, energy transference, the power of displacement and concurrent entanglement. Sounds fucking terrible, she thought. The masks we study, the world we know. Tickle me interested. She closed the laptop, paused, and bit her lip. To the library we go. She bundled herself for the walk, and yes, it was walkable. So long as there was a sidewalk in winter, it was walkable. It took just under 40 minutes, and she had entered into the heat of her local public library. In her relatively new town and home, this was quickly becoming a routine worth keeping. Good afternoon, pretty lady. Hi, Gianna. Chilly out there. Vera rapped her chest and shook to deliver the point. Gianna ate up small talk. Let me guess, Gianna played along. You walked here again? Are there any other forms of transportation? Let me see what we have in our library on the subject. Gianna pretended to type with one finger as she shot Vera the stink eye. You better take care of yourself, girl. I know you're new here. These winters ain't no joke. They can kill you. I hit every crosswalk, I promise. I even wore my reflective jacket. She pointed to the thin stripe on her left shoulder. Oh, just in case you wanted to deter someone who happened to be 1 inch from your coat? Gianna put her hand on her hips. Those are the ones you've got to look out for, Gianna. The ones who are that close. Girl, Gianna swatted the air in front of her face, shooing away the silly conversation. What can I do for you today? I'm studying up on astrophysics. Maybe metaphysics, quantum physics. I just might study up on all 3. Vera saw Gianna raise a single eyebrow, waiting for the joke. I'm serious. I find myself stargazing on this eastern shore. She dramatized the delivery and waved a theatrical hand in the air. Especially in winter. Things seem to shine a little brighter when there's snow on the ground. Okay, Gianna spoke, a verbal ellipsis. Can you please check on a book for me? Vera unzipped her jacket after having tucked her gloves into her pockets. I'm looking for The Masks We Study, The World We Know by Dr. Julian Thomas. Gianna began typing before Vera even finished the word the. This appeared to be a natural talent, a court stenographer in another life, Vera imagined. Gianna squinted, leaned closer to the computer, and typed again. She tilted her head. Say again? The Masks We Study, The World We Know by Dr. Julian Thomas. Dr. Julian Thomas, she spoke quietly now to herself. Vera scanned the room and smiled at a child waiting to check out 3 consecutive hardcover books. Harry Potter. Good to see youth still finding wonder in print, she thought. There's hope. Vera, honey, pains me to say, I've got nothing for you. Not here, not anywhere in our system. I don't have anything at all by that author. You sure you got that title right? Yes, I'm sure. Vera deflated just slightly. What else do you have for me today? That you haven't read yet? Novelty is not mandatory, Vera smiled. She loved this woman. Gianna was her first friend in East Norwalk, though she didn't know it. Are you stargazing with love in mind, honey? Adventure? Are we Star Wars up in here? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Are we Mind into Matter? None of those, though maybe the third. She hadn't read that one that she can recall. Without Dr. Thomas's book, the next most valuable thing was not an alternative, but rather small talk with her new friend. Eeny, meeny, miny, momy, Gianna. Vera covered her eyes. I want to turn to page 1 without even seeing the title. Gianna played along, checked out a book, placed it in a paper bag, and handed it to Vera. Now you just tell me what you think about that one, pretty lady. I'll see you next week. Who are you kidding? I'll see you tomorrow. Vera winked at the child, who was still waiting patiently, though the books were getting heavy. As she walked toward the door, she heard Gianna yell, You know I'm going to find this for you. I told you day 1, pretty girl, she proclaimed as she was checking out the child. If my readers want a book, they're going to have that book. Vera winked and saluted her friend. She watched her receive it and forward it to the child. Vera's couch was white. It was an easy choice when she first saw the living room, though it's less likely to last. It perfectly complemented her walls and contrasted the dynamic hickory floors. She raised her right leg to her chest and felt her soul leave the cold floor in favor of soft cloth comfort. She opened the paper bag with eyes closed. She meant what she had said. She wanted to begin reading page 1 without seeing the title. Let a story begin with no pretext. Let it create itself with no expectations. Selma had goals, and she recited them as she waited. The line for the teller extended nearly to the door. It wasn't the day, but she was committed and on schedule. She would close her account here, make it to yoga class by 2 p.m., and be at Sharon's by 5. She bounced on her flexors to loosen her calves a bit. They were tight after her long drive to the city. As she stretched, she followed the marble pillars from the ceiling to the floor. There were 3 in total, and as she traced the third one to its base, she saw him for the first time. You've got to be fucking kidding me, Vera laughed. Her name is fucking Selma, no less. She tucked her other leg into her chest, smiled, and read on. If Yoga Pants Selma can't bring romance back to life in a bank robbery, nobody can. Chapter 32. Present Day. It isn't protocol, but after 4 months, Claudia asks these questions to them both and makes her notes on separate pages. Do you have proper living space and adequate privacy, Jay? Claudia smiles at his new name and looks at them both. Check. She rattles off the next 3 questions without looking up and speaks her own affirmations. Do you have adequate food in the house? Yes, Claudia answers herself. Vera is amazing. Check. Are there drugs or alcohol in the house? We like wine. I know. Yes, check. Are there weapons in the house? No, but Jay is a liability in the kitchen. Check. She looks up. Their retention on her is absolute. They are adorable, these two. Claudia feels a tickle grumble somewhere behind her belly button. Do you both feel safe in your current living arrangement? Yes, the house is beautiful, and their comfort is radiant. Do you feel comfortable continuing with this arrangement? Yes, and Claudia wonders what effort it will take to end it, or how effortlessly it might be to never end. In other ways, she knows of this situation's finite nature. She knows. Is Jay reasonably navigating the responsibilities of the household? She shoots a playful, accusatory eye at Jay. What did you answer last time, Vera? I said you're a fucking mess in the kitchen. Listen, I've come a long way. Check. Do you have any concerns or items that need to be discussed? Jay shakes his head and turns to Vera. She softly shakes her head no and sips her coffee. Are you being properly cared for? She connects with Jay's eyes. They are kind and in wonder. They are the eyes of the boy and the man. He smiles at Vera and speaks. Yes, absolutely. It might be too much, and Claudia pauses. She sees. Are you being asked to do anything against your will? Jay smiles again, and this time it is certainly too much. No. He sips his coffee, hiding his face. Do you feel comfortable continuing with this living arrangement? Yes. Do you have any concerns or items that need to be discussed? No. Do you, Vera asks for the first time, have any concerns, that is? What should we be thinking about? Claudia pauses. She does have concerns, and came here today with the express intention to share them. They've identified an end date. She looks up. A date of discharge. Discharge to where? Jay is leaning forward, his palms on the countertop. To a psychiatric facility. Jay looks to Vera, who looks to Claudia for more. It's called Rutland Hall. Dr. Fitzpatrick is the consultant psychiatrist there and wants to see you admitted. Silence. Her intentions are good, Claudia pleads, and feels better in her defense of Franny. They are not on opposing sides, after all, and she'd prefer to frame her disclosure well. She is good, but you should know that this is the recommendation, and she has the hospital's support. Why does the hospital have a say at all? They're kind of your legal guardian, Jay, in a way. I'm an adult. He sounds frail for the first time, like a boy asking when his mother will come home. Yes, Claudia pauses, seeing lines in the sand and wanting to be on the right side. But you are a man without a name, without a home. She looks apologetically to Vera. Claudia continues, I'm sorry. I hope you understand my meaning. Vera is looking away now toward the living room, the bookshelf. We met this morning, the hospital staff. They said you've plateaued with EMDR, Jay, that it was meant to help you navigate to depths beyond conscious awareness, to seek, find, and bring things to light, soften them, massage them, free them. Claudia slows her speech. It's been 5 months. Can I not just be free then? Free, Claudia repeats in the solitude her head allows. Vera appears to be elsewhere. You've been deemed unfit for release, Jay. They cannot keep you, and they cannot let you go. She hears herself say they and them. They want to increase the frequency of your treatment and observation. They quoted false and therapeutically obstructive comfort in your current arrangement. Obstructive to what end? Truth. Truth? Progress. Progress toward truth, Jay concludes. Yes. Is it not regression to a truth? Claudia sees Jay's hand touching Vera's on the counter. Hands are not being held, but they affirm one another's presence in the room. I don't know, Claudia admits. They imagine that a man is waiting to be remembered. They don't recognize the wishes of the man at the helm, only the man forgotten on the island. The man with a name, Jay edits. Jay. Claudia turns her attention from Vera, who remains displaced in thought. We have 3 weeks. If we can discover who you are. 3 weeks, Jay echoes in deflated, robotic affirmation. Yes. Dr. Fitzpatrick will be going over all of this with you tomorrow. Claudia looks at him with increasingly soft, bent eyebrows. What can we do? Vera asks, and Claudia sees it again. I don't know if this helps, but Dr. Fitzpatrick talked about dislodging and how comfort can hinder that. Jay tugs at his cotton shirt in good humor, and Claudia sees the veins in his forearms bulge with his fists. I should create discomfort? He releases, and his arms fall to the countertop. Humor takes effort today. I don't know, she admits. I suppose a cold shower of sorts. She said it multiple times that your situation is too comfortable, that functional discomfort could help us discover who you are. What my name is, he corrects. What? This isn't about who I am. It's about my name, my surname, my past. His hands are in his lap now, resting, idle. Is that not part of who you are? Claudia pleads for some common ground. If there's anything there, it's who I was. Jay looks up. It's been nearly half a year. I've accepted what I can, and of course, I've thought a lot about this. I cannot imagine a life I'd remember that would take me away from her. He puts a hand on Vera's arm, and there are less subtleties now. Vera stares and waits. I can tell you what they will tell you, Claudia adjusts. They'll say that you cannot make decisions in your current state for the man you truly are. That man is lost, and we must find him. Jay removes his arm. Vera's hand is steady, suctioned to the marble, Claudia imagines. She continues. They'll say, if pressed, that Vera is keeping you here in a fragile state. Claudia is far from script. If they have to, they'll villainize you to make their point, Vera. And what is their point? Vera asks finally, and Jay affirms the question with his eyes. Claudia pauses. I think their point is that nothing is free, she exhales, but their words will be this. We need to help this man get unstuck. They'll say that this is the best intervention to help him regain what was lost. Claudia's mouth is still for a moment. That's what they'll say. And what do you say? To have Vera's eyes upon you is something primal. I say you are wonderful, she smiles after a slight hesitation. Both of you, she continues. I say that coming here is the highlight of my week. This is Claudia, the human, speaking. Her titles are somewhere else. What do I say? Claudia asks herself. I don't know. She knows. There's nothing more to find than someone. Vera serves the homemade pizza she had been prepping. It is margarita and smells like summer. How helpful is the compliment, Claudia asks herself. But I say that you two, she points back and forth between Jay and Vera, are something. It's a truth just loose enough to speak without complication. Well, Vera continues, pulling her own slice to herself and sitting down. Well, I'd say being something with someone, she looks to Jay, isn't nothing. Jay's eyebrows furrow. The dream is clear now, and Claudia sees the thin ice below their feet. They are dancing on a lake. She is there with them, here. If the ice should crack, let it crack beneath 6 feet. Vera continues, and maybe it's something worth holding. She plates 2 slices and pushes them across the kitchen island toward their respective mouths. Claudia observes Jay's palms pressed firmly into his thighs. She imagines him kneading his anxieties and suppressing whatever reactions might otherwise come naturally. Would those reactions not be something of the man? Is this a time for suppression? Vera meets his eyes, and Claudia sees something exchanged. She imagines the words that match the eyes. We will fight this. Claudia's eyes play ping-pong with their exchanges. She is in awe and wonders at the apparent card up Vera's sleeve. Jay's eyes become light. Something has been soothed. Claudia's smile widens, and Vera forces something equivalent, though Claudia sees something strained in her beautiful face. There's something more behind her teeth, Claudia imagines, something unsaid. The pizza is delicious. They are something. They really are something, these two.